I'm Noah Van Orstrand.
I'm Andrew Van Orstrand.
And we play in the Great Bear Trio.
And you're listening to WMNF Tampa.
The opinions presented on the Healthy Steps show are the evidence-based opinions of Dr. Fred Harvey, the callers, and his guests. These are not the opinions of the staff, the volunteers, or the board of WMNF. The information provided on the show is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. There is no implied patient-physician relationship in these calls. The nature of the calls is educational and informational only.
Good morning to you, my treasured listener. It is so dang good to be back in the harbor of the studio with you and Dr. Harvey here on the Healthy Steps radio show on WMNF Tampa, the benchmark of community-supported radio from Tampa Bay to the Gulf of Mexico, and the only station that Guy Montage streams when he's not out starting fires. And you can stream us as well at WMNF.org. Every Monday on the Healthy Steps show, we present an almost Socratic edition of what we call Ask Me Anything Monday. If you have any medical questions or concerns, please give us a call at 813-239-9663. Sage would love to get you in the queue, so jot this number down, 813-239-9663. You can also send an email to dj@wmnf.org or text us at 813-433-0885. And a heartfelt welcome and good morning to you, Dr. Harvey. It feels good to settle into this Arnie Jacobson burnt orange egg chair here at the WMNF studio. So let me throw open the windows and let even the neighbors listen in on the Healthy Steps radio show. Take it away. What have you got for us today, Dr. Harvey?
Well, thanks, Bill, for that intro. As usual, there's all kinds of news. And the thing I ran across this morning was that there is a new, highly mutated COVID variant called cicada. They call it new, but it's not really because this variant showed up, I think it showed up about a year ago. But it kind of was hidden. It really didn't show up a lot. It didn't grow. But this one, they call it cicada because it disappeared for a while and came back. They have some, I guess, little internal humor in how they name these viruses. But like the insect, it showed up as a minor variant, and now it's come back as a major one. But the thing is, it's really not a really big problem at this point in time, yeah. So its ancestors kind of went away, and then they hovered, and they mutated. They came back as this one, and it was kind of just like in the background, like many viruses are. 30% of all colds every year are coronaviruses. Yeah, coronavirus, the same one that causes COVID, the COVID immune syndrome. Because COVID isn't necessarily an infection. Truly, I've mentioned it before, it's actually an immune response to the infection. And for whatever reason, this virus triggers a very severe immune response that ends up in hospitalization. But this new variant, or recurrent variant, it's in 23 countries, but it's really not showing up as a major problem. It is definitely in Florida, California, Connecticut, Michigan, Massachusetts, New York. It's over half the country. And they know it's here because they do wastewater monitoring. They find the virus in sewage. It's an easy way to check populations for the presence of these things. And so it really hasn't overtaken the current dominant variants and their descendants, and it's not really showing that it's anything much different. You get the same symptoms: cough, fever, chills, sore throat, congestion, shortness of breath, loss of smell, fatigue, headache, and gastrointestinal symptoms. It's still sensitive to the COVID antiviral drugs, and it may respond to the shots. The genetic therapy, the RNA shot, is different. It produces an antibody reaction to a slightly different spike protein because that's what happened in this mutant. It has changed the spike protein slightly. as in the past, it's likely going to help limit the severity if you've had a shot or if you've had previous COVID. So really, the bottom line here is, we're in the middle, still in the middle of the respiratory virus season. Lots of people are traveling with spring break. People are spending lots of time in lines at airports. And so in those situations, like when you're standing around with lots of people, you may want to put a mask on, because even though it's not perfect, it will reduce your exposure. And if you actually have some asymptomatic COVID, it will reduce you exposing other people. As a courtesy, I think everyone deserves that, whether or not they have a mask aversion. If you're really claustrophobic, don't wear it. But if it's out of your sense of freedom, maybe you ought to consider that the freedom to not infect is bigger than the freedom to not wear a mask. Ethics have a lot to do with this. And I think it's ethical to help other people not get ill. I think it's also ethical to help yourself not get ill. So you may want to do the usual things that I recommend, and that is make sure you've got some vitamin D on board and some antiviral working types of nutrients like a little quercetin and possibly a little extra zinc, vitamin C. Echinacea can tell your virus-killing cells to stand up and do some better work. But they're not going to treat a virus. These just help you really stay resilient against it, per se, not really an active, direct antiviral therapy like you might get in the anti-flu drug Tamiflu. And so it's interesting because there's a bunch of stuff that's happened with COVID that made a lot of people question the validity of what was going on in the medical community's approach to science. But in reality, there's a really good article that came from the Washington Post that talks about some four truths, some four realities that came out of this, and that is that lockdowns actually served a purpose. Flatten the curve was real. Do you remember that phrase, flatten the curve? It was really meant to reduce the pandemic severity. Hospitals were overwhelmed in New York, for example, in March of 2020, they were doing 1,500 admissions a day. That's crazy. I mean, that's basically filling up every hospital bed in New York each day. And so flattening the curve was to hope to bring that down so that it wasn't so many. But for some reason, freedom got involved, and a lot of people thought it was really righteous to freely infect other people and keep the pandemic going. And yeah, it is your right to do what you want to do, but it's not ethical sometimes. And there was a really robust debate on it, and especially on school closures. And we understand that the school closures did actually affect kids' behavior. But, we have to take into account that if we didn't do some of this, even more grandparents would be dead. Even more parents would be dead, because this was a deadly pandemic. And so was it really ethical to promote the pandemic by not actually doing simple things to protect? The phrase follow the science is basically, I don't want to think. Please don't make me think. Because that was a denigratory term that said it's not worth it to follow science. Everything was oversimplified by soundbite people, and it turned into basically I can't say the words. But COVID was not the flu. It was different. It's a cold. Coronavirus is a cold virus. At this point, getting COVID is pretty mundane. Most people are just, they weather it. They go through the cold and then it's over. But in the early days, younger people were actually much higher threat. And right today, people aren't considered as high risk, but you have to remember the people that are still at high risk for bad events from flu, cold, or anything else are the people that are suffering from chronic illness, the standard American illnesses, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. These are all problems that make it harder to be resilient against the immune challenges that come at us. And so, seniors always have had the highest risk of death with it because they have the least resilience of the group. And for whatever reason, the infants weren't getting hit as hard as the seniors. And so, we know that another distrust came because vaccines were sold as preventing infection. And truly, that wasn't going to happen here. The real key was the shots, the gene therapy with mRNA was designed to reduce severity so people didn't die. That's really about what it could do. But because we didn't have enough people with shots in arms to begin with, then we didn't get to that herd immunity. But the vaccines could prevent 90% of disease. And then the virus started mutating and making different changes. And then people who had the shots were beginning to get infection because it wasn't the same spike protein. So there was a lot of challenge. It was such a difficult time. And I thought it was really interesting about how the government changed its tune on things. Individual leaders like Trump changed his position from at the beginning to the end. And it's interesting. I saw that in the beginning, when Trump was on stage, Moderna was everywhere, and when Biden got on stage, Pfizer was everywhere. Like, what was the change there? I don't quite get it, but there's some evidence out there that's interesting. Coronavirus is a cold virus, and over time, and it's already happening, coronavirus is beginning to act more like regular colds. So it's likely that over the next decade, it's going to keep stepping down. But it might always hover in the background as something that could be really virulent, could be really severe. And so it may be like the influenza, a shot may prevent the serious inflammatory cascade that causes people to really get the severe adverse consequences of it and increase your risk of death. I mean, I've mentioned it on here before. One influenza vaccine has evidence that it will reduce all-cause mortality later. So you'll die less of heart attack and cancer if you have one flu shot. Pretty crazy. And if you want to talk about these kind of crazy issues, you can call me here at WMNF. The number is 813-239-9663. This is the Healthy Steps Show. I'm Dr. Fred Harvey, and I believe we do have someone who's interested in talking right here on the line now. Is B from Plant City available?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi there. I can hear you.
Hi. I was calling. Well, first of all, thank you and to the station for always putting on such great shows and content for everyone.
You're welcome.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I wanted to call and talk about my blood pressure. So I'm 35. I have two young kids. My youngest is one, just turned one. And right kind of during my pregnancy and then at the end, my blood pressure was just high, and it kind of stayed high. And so my doctor finally put me on a calcium channel blocker, nifedipine, I think it's pronounced. And she kind of thinks that it's a genetic thing and that I'm probably going to have to be on it for life. And I really don't like the thought of that. I already hate taking it every day. There's some symptoms that I get from it that I don't love. And I'm just curious as to I know all the basic lifestyle things that help lower blood pressure, like lower sodium and exercise, and I'm very active and eat relatively healthy. And so I am just kind of curious about, now that this has happened, kind of all the mechanisms and and other things going on in my body that might be leading to this, other things I can possibly do to reduce my numbers.
Yeah, I think you have a very good point at 35. To be placed on a lifetime medication is daunting, I believe. And so, first things first, there is something that I learned when I was in medical school, and I've unlearned it. It's just a really weird diagnostic term. It's called essential hypertension. From my perspective, there's nothing essential about hypertension. No one is born with it. It is not an intrinsic part of a human being. And to be so lazy intellectually that you would call a disease state an essential part of a human is just really bizarre. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help but think about, like, my ancestors and people, just humans in the world. How is blood pressure? I feel like this could just be a normal mechanism, but
it is. It's a normal mechanism that's gone abnormal.
Yeah.
The question is why? It's always why. Since I was born, I bothered everyone around me with a question, why?
Same.
I would not put up with anything less than an answer for why, because that's what matters. And so your doctor never asked why. Mm-hmm. That's a sad thing. Where is the intellectual curiosity in physicians today? I'm sad. Really, I am. Looking at my former colleagues who don't ask why.
Yeah.
They ask what? They've been trained to ask what is the label, so what pill can I throw at the label? Oh, yeah, you have to just resign yourself to the fact that you have a label, and you're going to have to, do things about the label. Here's a pill. Here's a test. Blah, blah, blah. Same story. The medical industrial complex eats people for lunch and makes profit for pharmaceutical companies because people aren't thinking about what's real.
Yeah.
So do you have excessive lead or mercury in your system? Do you have a problem with something imbalancing your neurotransmitters? Do you have vagal dysfunction that doesn't actually calm down your sympathetic tone? Do you have a hormonal imbalance that's pushing on things? Has this been looked at? Have you had your metabolome evaluated to see what imbalances are there that could be pressing on your vascular system to cause high blood pressure? Do you have a magnesium deficiency?
Not that I know of, but
Has anybody checked your magnesium level, though?
Yeah. No, they gave me like a basic panel.
Okay.
And I did ask about hormones and that kind of thing, too, because following pregnancy, it seems like that could be a very big part.
Well, you had high blood pressure during your pregnancy, right?
Yeah, towards the end, yeah.
Yeah, that's called eclampsia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. And they treat it with magnesium usually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I have started taking magnesium before bed, and I once it's helping. But
once they diagnosed you with that, then they don't do any further evaluation. You have a diagnosis; they know this happens, and so they just treat it rather than figuring out why are you one of the people that got eclampsia.
Yeah, genetics has not sat right with me like this whole time.
Well, genetics is part of it.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
your genetics is a blueprint, and if you haven't stroked the blueprint the right way, then you're going to get adverse outcomes, and so you deserve to have a doctor look deeper. Somewhere near you, there's probably a functional medicine doctor. And it wouldn't make a bad idea for you to go to ifm.org and go to the doctor finder and find somebody close to you so you don't have to drive across the world. But you really deserve a deeper look, my dear, because you're 35 and you don't deserve to be on nifedipine the rest of your life.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, it hasn't sat well with me at all. So I've been eager to hear your perspective. I had a feeling it was going to be something like that, but help.
Yeah, and you can take line item stuff, but I mean that's just Western medicine. Hey, you have high blood pressure. Here, take some magnesium. Why don't you figure out why instead of just adding another pill?
Yeah.
You need a doctor.
Yeah. Not
a prescriber.
Yeah. The lead thing is interesting.
Yes, there's actually
talked about that the other day.
There's a clinical study that shows that women perimenopausally have lead mobilized from their bones, and it correlates with increases in blood pressure. I'm not saying that's what you've got, but lead directly causes high blood pressure. So you need to be evaluated. I use a test called the Nutra-Eval from Genova Diagnostics, and in it there is a blood lead test and a blood mercury test. So we can see if you have some of these things that will be causing problems, but unfortunately, primary care doctors don't use this test, and only Medicare covers it. Private insurance doesn't because, my God, it works with health.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. And I live in an old house, and pretty much everything I own is hand-me-down, antique, whatever. So,
well, there could be lead in the paint. There could be mercury. There could be all kinds of things. So I would definitely get looked at by someone who is interested in looking at why.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Best wishes with that.
Have a good day.
You too. I think we have John on the line here from Sarasota.
Hey, Dr. Harvey, how are you today?
Excellent. How are you?
Good. Hey, like the last week, it just seems like I don't know if is postnasal drip a thing?
It absolutely is. And we're in the middle of Florida allergy season with pine, oak, and mango pollen all over the place. And you're probably having postnasal drip from excessive particulate stuff in your nose.
Well, does it? Yeah, because my nose is like clogged up still. But
yeah.
It's like it drains down my throat, and I can't cough it up. Like I got a frog in my throat.
Oh, okay. Well, something that thins out the mucus pretty nicely is a nutritional supplement called N-acetylcysteine, abbreviated NAC, and it usually comes in like 600 milligram capsules. And taking one of those with meals actually loosens up the mucus. And then enzymes like proteolytic enzymes, Wobenzyme, proteozyme, they actually will help to chew up some of that inflammatory mucus too. But there's a really good thing when your nose is that clogged, you might want to try a neti pot, N-E-T-I pot, and you put clear distilled water in there and a packet of baking powder, salt powder, and you mix that up and you squirt it through your nose. And the baking powder actually helps to get the mucus out of your head.
Well, when I take a shower, I always lean my head back and run the hot water through my nose.
And that's one of the worst things you could possibly do because that chlorinated, non-salty water ruins your nose mucosa. You should never do that. You should use salted water. That's why I recommend using a neti pot because chlorinated, not salted water destroys the membrane and makes the problem worse.
Oh, I thought because of the hot water it would break it up.
It will break it up. It'll also break up your nasal mucosa and continue the problem for you.
Okay. Well, like I said, it just seems like it's draining down my throat, and sometimes when I eat certain stuff or have a certain drink or something, it'll burn. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you need to do some work there. You probably have a chronic rhinitis, which is an inflammation of your nose, and you may want to see an allergist if this persists.
Yeah, okay.
But try those things I mentioned. You'll probably clean up your nose.
Okay, well, like I said, it just started like a week ago, maybe.
Well, we're in that season, so best wishes with that.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Harvey.
You're welcome. Have a great day, John. I think we have another John on the line from St. Petersburg.
Hello? Yes, Dr.
Hello, John.
Yes, sir.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, and you?
Doing quite well, thanks.
So, February 10th, I began with a runny nose. And I was in Nevada for about a week. And I flew back here on February 12th. And it continued to get very bad. And I began to have a very strong cough with very strong mucus.
What color was the mucus?
A yellow. Now, I was tested for COVID. And then, actually, it was probably close to a month before I actually saw a doctor, and he recommended a chest X-ray, and it indicated pneumonia. And I was treated for 5 days with 2 different antibiotics. That's been, since I stopped the antibiotics, about 10 days ago. I kind of feel, well, first of all, I have how what would be your reaction to the diagnosis, the treatment of antibiotics, et cetera, and what causes the pneumonia? You agree that it was pneumonia?
So viral infections can set you up to get a secondary bacterial pneumonia. Most pneumonias are bacterial. Most pneumonias, if they're really pneumonias, get longer than 5 days of antibiotics. Most antibiotic indications for pneumonia are 10 days to 2 weeks. So I think that short course is interesting. Once you've treated a pneumonia, if the cough clears up, if the mucus changes color, and you're done with antibiotics, it may take 3 to 4 weeks to recover because your lungs have just had a massive injury.
Okay, because I feel like I've kind of reached a plateau. Slowly, it seems I can take a full breath. I mean, my ability to take a full breath is returning.
Yes.
I have had some, up until then, if I took a full breath, I would cough. And clear mucus would appear, much less than the yellow, what I've read about is called pus, actually. But is there any other treatment other than antibiotics to treat the pneumonia?
Well, it sounds like your pneumonia has been treated if your mucus has gone clear and you're having easier breathing. So, yeah, I think you've done that. Now it's about doing some work to recover your lungs. Vitamin C helps to rebuild connective tissue that's been damaged, and it also helps to rebuild some of the protective, the antioxidant protection so you can reduce the inflammation. I'm not sure of any other specific thing that I would recommend right now, not knowing you, not knowing what's really specifically going on. You deserve a metabolic workup to find out, what got you to the point of a pneumonia. Why is your resilience so low? Why do you have essentially a weak spot in your lungs that resulted in this? And so that's the approach I would take. You've been treated for the acute phase illness. Now you need to find out why you got an acute illness like this. So you need a doctor that's going to explore that with you.
And who would do a metabolic workup?
Functional medicine doctors. That's where we spend our time. We look at how you work so we can help you work better so that you don't get diseases that need to be treated.
I see. And is this sort of a compromised immune system, possibly?
Well, it sounds like you might have compromise in your respiratory lining. It could be a compromise in your immune system. It's hard to tell. And that's why you deserve a workup of what's going on with you to find out where your imbalances are to help you avoid future events like this.
I think in one of the previous calls, you did mention acetylcysteine.
And acetylcysteine is a good thing to help break up mucus. But if your mucus isn't thick and it's going down, you may not need that. You may need to actually look at why you got this.
Right. One other question, possibly. I have glaucoma also. And I've been sort of advised that something like prednisone should not be used if I'm using eye drops for the glaucoma.
Well, prednisone can cause cataracts and it can interfere with things, but if you actually need to take prednisone prescribed by a doctor for an acute medical condition, I would listen to them generally because it's going to be time limited. Chronic prednisone is not a good idea for anyone.
No, I thought in conjunction or to possibly treat my lingering pneumonia symptoms.
No, that's not an appropriate use for prednisone.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'm on the right track here and possibly call you for a workup.
Sounds like you're healing, so keep it on the same path and have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I think we have Chris on the line.
Hi, Doctor. Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm glad that you brought up the topic at the start of the show. That I think that now that the pandemic is over, we can have more patients to talk about the drawbacks of the lockdowns as well. the vaccine and mask mandates. And
we could also talk about the benefits of the lockdowns and the mask mandates, because there were benefits there, Chris. They weren't just all negative.
Well, I understand that. I'm just concerned about it happening again with another engineered virus. And
okay, we can stop talking about engineered viruses. Goodbye, Chris. Have a good day.
What?
I said have a good day. Jean is on the line from Largo.
Hi, Dr. Harvey.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Okay, my question is, I recently went to my nurse practitioner, and she wanted to put me on metoprolol because she said I had 72 episodes showing from a 2-week Holter monitor.
Yes, 72 episodes of what?
72 episodes of PSSUSVT.
Okay, that is paroxysmal, which means happens out of the blue, supraventricular tachycardia, which is a rhythm that happens in the top part of the heart. It's like atrial fibrillation, and it makes the heart go really, really fast.
Okay.
And did you feel that?
No, I had no symptoms. I just play pickleball, and I have an Apple Watch, so I look, and sometimes my it goes up to like 140, but it comes right back down. But I didn't want to take the metoprolol until I see a cardiologist. Is that? And she didn't want to send me to a cardiologist. She said she can just fix the problem by putting me on metoprolol.
Oh my word, that's delusional. That is so delusional.
Is it unreasonable? Is it unreasonable?
Somebody's got some really interesting thinking there.
I mean, is it unreasonable for me to ask for a cardiology consult?
I think it's unreasonable for a doctor to tell you that she's going to fix your PSSVT with metoprolol. That's really unreasonable.
Okay, thank you.
And so what really needs to happen here is we need to ask the question. Do you know the question?
Well, I have a copy of the...
No, the question we need to ask, it's a 3-letter word. What is the question we need to ask?
Okay, what is it?
Why? Why do you have PSSVT? Not, whoa, you have it. Here's a label. We can throw a pill in a label. Yay, we win. No, that's not practicing medicine.
I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out why I'm having it. I do have...
Exactly. And so it's unreasonable to be told, no, you don't need to see a cardiologist. I'm God. I can fix you with a pill. Oh, my word. Yeah. That is completely delusional thinking.
Okay, I'm thinking it's insurance related, and maybe it's not her problem. She's just being...
Well, that's a problem. If doctors are practicing for insurance, then they're practicing for not you. They're practicing for some weird thing. And so you need to avoid doctors that think like that. In fact, anybody who's listening today, if you have a doctor that's acted that way, leave. Okay. I'm just going to be frank. Just leave that practice, find another one, and get a better doctor.
I'm also in the process last week of finding a different insurance and a different doctor.
Very good. So let me tell you a little bit about your tachycardia, your fast heart rate. So things that can induce fast heart rates like this in the location in the heart where you have your diagnosis are things like sleep apnea and toxins like alcohol.
Yeah, I don't drink. I thought of sleep apnea and doing would a stress test help?
No, a sleep test helps to find out what the sleep apnea is. A stress test would tell you if you have cardiovascular disease. By the way, how old are you?
77.
So you probably deserve a full cardiology workup. In fact, I think it's negligence to actually put you on metoprolol and tell you it's fixed and not send you to a cardiologist. Flat out negligence. Because you are 77, you have a high risk of cardiovascular disease at that age. Cardiovascular disease can cause this, sleep apnea can cause this, and you deserve a cardiologist who's going to give you a full evaluation, period.
Oh, Dr. Harvey, thank you. This is what, these are the things I wanted to hear. And a lot of the SVTs were happening during sleep. So I thought,
well, that's sleep apnea then. You got to get checked for sleep. Go find a sleep doctor or a good primary, because you don't have a good primary. I don't know what you got, but that person isn't even practicing medicine.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. And when I asked her when did they happen, when did these occur, before I had a copy of them, she was kind of looking. She didn't even really know when they were happening. And when I got a copy, I saw, they were happening during sleep time and sometimes when I was playing pickleball. So sleep apnea test and, cardiology consult.
You really deserve it because at your age, you have risk, much higher risk, and pills don't cover this.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Harvey.
You're so welcome.
I'm on it. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Have a great day and good luck with it. Keep us posted. Call back and tell us what happened. So John from Lakeland is on the air.
Good day.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well today, too.
Very good. I have a family member, almost 24-year-old female. She has, for a while now, I would say more than a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, at times had problems keeping her food down. She has seen a doctor out of the country, and that doctor explained to her that she probably has lesions on her stomach, although they didn't send a camera down or anything like that, which she wants to have done. It's caused her to lose quite a bit of weight, and I'm concerned. I'm not sure there's a correlation, but she does vape. Does she vape nicotine or does she vape cannabis? Cannabis. Okay. So let me stop you right there. There is a syndrome called cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. And even in people who don't get the hyperemesis, which means puking all the time, they can get nauseated from cannabis. This could be a source. Yeah. I thought I read or heard as much, and they don't want to hear that. But of course. This doctor she exclaims to have seen out of country, is willing to offer, medication that soothes her stomach. And of course, I'm explaining to her, that's palliative. That's not addressing what's doing this. But she wants to attribute it also to food, a little cleaner food in the Caribbean. This country is, and that may be true. But we also have clean fruits and vegetables here if you look for them. Yes, that makes a little less sense to me. She has a metabolic problem. She has something going on in her gut. She may have an H. pylori infection. She may be having cannabis-related hyperemesis. It's hard to tell. She needs a doctor to evaluate her. Yeah. A typical medical doctor. Might as well start there. If she's not had an endoscopy and she's had over a year of nausea and vomiting, I think it's worth it to talk to somebody who can look down there. Start there, yeah. Okay. It may not give you all the answers, but you can also at the same time check in with a functional medicine doctor. Sure. Yeah, I'd like to do that. Well, that's all I have today. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, best wishes. I hope she gets feeling better. Thanks. Me too. Thank you, sir. You're very welcome. Well, it looks like our board has gone rather quiet. So, hey, this is Dr. Fred Harvey, the Healthy Steps Show, WMNF, Tampa, 88.5. And the phone number to get in touch with me is 813-239-9663. Again, 813-239-9663. And I have a lot of emails, so I'll start reading a couple of them. Excuse me. Peter writes in, hey, Doc, heard the term this weekend, was curious about it. And the term is peptides. I love it. He tried Google, and the definition for antimatter was more comprehensible. Brilliant. What should I be aware of regarding peptides? All right, let's make it simple. There are pharmaceutical peptides, and we use them. Insulin is a peptide. Yeah, it's a short protein. GLP-1 agonists like Ozempic and Zepbound, Mounjaro, they're peptides. Then there's this other group of stuff that are these nutritional supplement type peptides. They have alphanumeric designators and limited, if any, evidence for what they do. Lots of good anecdotes. Jane felt great when she pumped up with this one, and Pete got lower
fat mass when he pumped up with that one. And there's a bunch of bodybuilders doing these stacks of these things and such. But honestly, I don't see that there's that much evidence. I only use the actual prescriptive ones in my practice, but I know there's a lot of people out there using the other ones and making a lot of money doing it. So with that, I'm not sure that we need to pursue peptides the way the internet is pursuing them, similar to the way we probably don't need to pursue most of what the internet pursues rabidly. Here's another one from David. Hey, Dr. Fred, I attended the No Kings protest in Temple Terrace this past weekend, and it was awesome. I honestly think there are some health benefits to attending these rallies because you meet kindred spirits and don't feel so hopeless about the current screwy political scourge. Is there any research on whether participating in such rallies improves one's health? Well, we just know that when you actually get together with people, that is really a great way to really open up. And when you connect with these people, you do share the love. And I just don't know if there's any research on it. So, yeah, I think it's good to go and get involved. But I'm not sure if we can say it's clinically relevant. But let's see. I'm just doing a quick, let's see, impact of participation on health. It goes both ways. You could have high stress environments, dense crowds, and you may actually feel worse there. But when you go to a rally where you're focusing on health issues and access, you may actually get lifted up. On the other hand, right now, if you're in a big crowd like this weekend in Temple Terrace, you may have been in a place where you're transmitting more illness. But then again, it was outdoors, and so there's so many variables. I couldn't say, but I got to tell you that participating in things with friends is a really good thing. And so I hope you keep doing it. We have a caller, Michael from Largo. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
How are you today?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Excellent. What do you got for us?
I was recently told that my digestive system doesn't absorb B12. I take a pretty darn good vitamin supplement, and so I was given a prescription to once a week to inject a B12 liquid. That's the first time I've been told something like that. But
yeah, there's a condition called pernicious anemia where you can't absorb the B12. It can actually be something you recover from if your belly recovers from the chronic irritation that caused it. Sometimes it doesn't work, though. Injections are the way we've done it for years, but there's also nasal spray and sublingual that work actually as well as the shots. And you have to do it on a daily basis because you got to keep getting that dose in because it doesn't get quite as much in.
Where do I get that dose?
Well, doctors can prescribe the nasal spray, and doctors can recommend the sublingual. You can get that over the counter. So you may want to talk to your doctor about alternatives to shooting yourself up.
I appreciate that. That shooting, that kind of...
Yeah, it's no fun, and you don't have to do it. So talk to them about it. They can monitor your B12 levels while you're doing the sublingual or the nasal. The nasal is sometimes covered by insurance, but the sublingual is cheap over the counter. So you may want to just do an adjustment with your doctor and say, hey, I'm going to do this, and I would like you to monitor my B12.
Yeah, and then I had a full panel blood work, not too long ago. I don't know. I can look at it again and see if I don't know if it discusses B12 in the blood work panel or not.
Only if it's ordered.
Okay. I appreciate it, sir.
Have a great day. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I think Dale from Port Charlotte wants to talk.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you're so knowledgeable about these things and do ask the question why about everything. So I wanted anybody that's listening to know that. And I just appreciate you having me on.
You're very welcome.
And
I'm glad you're here.
I wanted to ask you, Doc, about there's so many things to talk about. I can't believe that you're not overloaded, and I try not to commandeer the whole conversation. But, I still have these numbers that, the mainstream doctors say that you're fine. I've got numbers that seem to be good, and yet I feel terrible. And I don't understand. I know the CBCs that they normally do, I think it tests about 40 things, and it tests your different numbers on your red count, your white count, and things like that. And if you have a high white count, you've got an infection, they think, and so forth and so on. But the CBC don't seem to be, what they do doesn't seem to get at the problem. And I've had an endoscopy done, and I've had all those kind of things, and they don't come up with anything. And yet there's things that I don't understand, like a little teeny tiny sore on my thigh that looks like a bullseye, like the same thing that they think if you've got a larger thing, they think that you've got some kind of Lyme's disease, and it's bled for about 3 days. And so I don't know. I take a lot of, I know you mentioned the NAC and things like that. I try to take some of these things, and sometimes I think I take too much. So,
well, that could be. I mean, if you take a lot of fish oil, a lot of enzymes, you may leak a little bit through your capillaries. But what you're describing here is something that the founder, the creator of functional medicine, Jeffrey Bland, talked about in lectures back in the late 90s when I got very interested in what he was saying. And that is that there's this group of people called the vertical ill. You're one of them. You're walking around feeling terrible, and your doctor says, "Oh, I can't find anything on your blood work. Why don't you come back when something develops?" Well, it already developed. You're feeling it. And he's just unable to see it because he doesn't look deep enough. So you deserve a metabolomic workup, like a functional medicine doctor would do. A deeper look into what's going wrong with you so that you can actually understand why it is you might be having this problem. Because the fact that they're telling you there's nothing on your blood work means that they didn't look deep enough on your blood work. Or they didn't listen to you long enough and well enough to find out which blood work would be the right one to order for you.
Well, that's probably definitely true. And,
yes.
But I thought that I was going up to, I was thinking that where I was going, which was a functional clinic, I thought that they were closer to me, but they're farther away. And they went ahead and they had some blood work requested. And so I've had all kinds of blood work done. I don't have the results yet. I'm going to get the results. And but if I had all this blood work done, that would be different than what the traditional mainstream medical community does. If I have all blood work done, there's supposedly been about 15 things of blood work. And then, but what about if you have a colorectal cancer diagnosis, what about a stool specimen and all kinds of urine specimen and all kinds of things that are not blood work?
Yeah, there's all kinds of things to order. I do a lot of stool tests, and so I would, since you already started getting blood work with this functional medicine practitioner, you might want to finish up with that. And if you don't go where you want to, then keep looking. All right?
Okay. Yeah.
Best wishes with that.
Yes. Thank you very much, Doc. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dale. Have a great day. I think Tamara is on the phone.
Hi, Dr. Harvey. Just a quick, I was diagnosed with Sjogren's, and that was probably last year, and I went to a rheumatoid arthritis specialist.
Yes.
He said, I will knock this out of your system, which I've read that you can't knock it out of your system, but maybe you can put it back to, sleep, with hydroxychloroquine. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's the standard cookbook that the rheumatologists use. They give you a label, you have Sjogren's. They give you a pill to match the label. It's pill for ill. Now, if you want to know about autoimmune disease, you want to look deeper and find out why it is that your body triggered the Sjogren's to be active. What is bothering your body? Do you have a mold toxicity? Do you have some arsenic on board? Are you having a deficiency in omega-3 fatty acids? Do you have a sensitivity to pasteurized dairy? There's all kinds of things that can do it, but rheumatologists don't believe that your body is actually a connected whole system, so they ignore everything except for the white blood cells, and then they paralyze them with medications like hydroxychloroquine so they don't do the job that they're supposed to do, because what they're doing is a job that went aberrant. They went off the rails, and the immune system is killing you. And so rather than finding out why, again, why is the immune system killing you, they say, oh, what is going on here? The immune system killing you, here's a pill. Let's ask why. Ask your doctor to ask why. Call your doctor up today and say, hey, why do I have this Sjogren's? And why are you giving me hydroxychloroquine when you don't know why I have the Sjogren's?
This is so interesting. It seems like everyone that's calling you this morning, we haven't asked the right questions.
Yeah, you got to ask your doctors why, and then they freak out because they don't know why. They make stuff up, and then they give you a pill. I've watched it happen numerous times.
Okay, well, then that's what I'll do. I'll give her a call. I mean, it's gone into remission of some sort. It's not showing up.
Good, because that's what these pills do. I'm glad you're in remission. They do that. Yeah. I'm not saying don't take the pill because it does stop the ill, but you may want to find out why you have the ill so you don't have to take the pill.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, I think Justice wants to talk about No Kings.
Justice is out now. We have Juanita, though.
Juanita, wonderful. Let's talk to Juanita.
Yes, sir. Are you there?
I am here. How are you today?
I'm good. I had stents put in approximately 2 weeks ago, and my follow-up, my doctor told me I can no longer do female hormones. Why?
Okay. Well, he has a rigid belief system for some reason, or you have a diagnosis that prevents you from taking them. I'm going to lean more towards the rigid belief system because a lot of doctors were polluted with bad information about the Women's Health Initiative that talked about how estrogen and progesterone work in the human body.
Well, he said the hormones could build plaque in my arteries, and since I have stents, I can't do that.
Oh, okay. It's the exact opposite. Unless you're taking synthetic progesterone. Synthetic progesterone, called Provera, medroxyprogesterone, does build up plaque in the arteries, but estrogen takes it away. So he's confused about the real truth here.
I do the pellets underneath the skin.
Oh, the pellets are one of the worst things you could possibly do because no human has steady state, flat levels of hormones. I recommend against using pellets for everybody because I think they're pellet poison.
So what should I do, compound?
I think what you should do is find a good doctor who doesn't do pellets and talk about hormones and your total functional medicine picture.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You're so welcome. Hey, we're down to the last minute or so I'm going to move on to a couple of texts and emails. I got a text from someone here who says, have I heard or read anything about forged body pills that contain beef organs? No. And the second part is, do they actually work? I'm not sure for what. They're food. I would just go ahead and have some beef liver if you really want to do that. I have a great butcher out in Arcadia that has this ancestral blend where they actually take the beef ground up and mix it with some ground up beef organs. It's delicious and very nutritious. And I got to tell you, this has been a wonderfully engaging show. I've really enjoyed every bit of it. Joe, I thank you for being there running the boards. And I don't know if it's Sage is on the phone, but I thank whoever's doing the phone answering today because this has been very smooth and easy in the absence of our buddy Bill. And so I just want to thank all the callers because you've kept me engaged, and I love asking why, and I want to train you all to grill your doctors to continuously ask why. And I'll see you next week to ask me anything again. Have a great day and a great week.
This is WMNF Tampa.